Imagine that at this exact moment, the digital world simply ceases to exist. Without warning, without cellular signal, without internet. The satellites above us fall silent, and the screens that guide our lives turn into dark, useless glass. For most of us, this sounds like the script of a post-apocalyptic science fiction movie. But the truth is, this has happened before. And the culprit was not a war, a virus, or a hacker attack. It was the sun. This is the story of the Carrington Event, the day the sky caught fire and humanity realized, for the very first time, just how fragile our civilization is in the face of a star's fury. London, September 1st, 1859. As most of the city awakened to another day of work beneath the smoke of factories, one man stood in his private observatory in Red Hill. Richard Carrington, an amateur astronomer of obsessive precision, pointed his telescope at the sun. He wasn't seeking beauty, but data. That morning, he saw something that defied logic. Two intense, brilliant patches of white light suddenly erupted onto the solar surface. Stunned, Carrington rushed to find a witness. But by the time he returned, the phenomenon had vanished. He didn't know it yet, but he had just witnessed the birth of a storm that would alter the course of history. What he saw was a coronal mass ejection. Billions of tons of charged particles fired directly at Earth at speeds of millions of miles per hour. Less than 18 hours later, the storm struck the planet. The night sky across the globe exploded into color. Auroras, typically confined to the poles, were seen in Cuba, the Bahamas, and even Hawaii. In Rome and Mexico City, people poured into the streets, believing the end of the world had arrived. But the true chaos was not in the sky. It was in the wires. The telegraph network, the backbone of global communication at the time, collapsed. Sparks flew from the machines, setting off as papers ablaze. Operators received violent shocks, and most bizarre of all, even when completely disconnected from their batteries, the machines continued to send messages, powered solely by the electricity the storm was surging into the atmosphere. They were ghost machines operating entirely on their own beneath a blood-red sky. In 1859, the sun's magnetic fury engulfed the Earth, but humanity survived with only superficial scars. The reason was simple. Our global infrastructure amounted to nothing more than an emerging telegraph network, a Victorian internet made of copper wires, and daily life still pulsed to the rhythm of steam and brute force. Today, the landscape is drastically different. Over the past 150 years, we have built an incredibly complex civilization, almost entirely powered and managed by electricity and digital networks. This extreme technological dependence has transformed our greatest triumph into our largest and most lethal vulnerability, the collapse of digital civilization. What would happen if a magnetic monster of the same magnitude struck us in the modern era? According to reports and modeling from NASA, the National Academy of Sciences, and NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, a contemporary Carrington event would cause an unprecedented disaster. Violent, geomagnetically induced currents would surge through the Earth's crust, invading and melting the extra high voltage transformers that form the backbone of the world's electrical grids. In the blackness of space, the relentless onslaught of radiation and energetic particles would strike our unprotected hardware, frying electronic circuits and corrupting the memory of entire satellite fleets. Without satellites, vital GPS systems would instantly collapse. Without them, commercial aviation would grind to a halt, cargo ships would be left blind, and global financial networks would lose synchronization. The loss of electrical power would cause the global internet to collapse, leaving nations in total isolation and shattering the logistical networks that guarantee the distribution of food and medical supplies. The initial economic shock is estimated between $1 and $2 trillion, potentially escalating into the tens of trillions in the event of global cascading failures. It is not a matter of if, but when. The most disturbing fact, however, is our profound ignorance of this cosmic Russian roulette. We look up at the blue sky every day and believe that sunlight is a symbol of peace and tranquility. But that is a dangerous illusion. Our sun is a volatile nuclear reactor, a temperamental star that has never stopped firing its magnetic weapons into the dark void of space. Current studies indicate that the probability of an extreme solar event crossing Earth's path is roughly 1% each year. In July 2012, we nearly discovered the weight of that statistic. The most powerful coronal mass ejection of the space age, equal in magnitude to the 1859 event, tore through our orbit, but missed the planet by a terrifying margin of just 9 days. Had Earth been in the line of fire, we would have awakened in a new dark age. The real question keeping scientists and governments awake at night is not whether our civilization will be struck again by a storm of this scale, but simply when. On the day the next great white light silently erupts onto the solar surface, the clock will begin to tick. We will have less than a day before impact. And beneath blood-red auroras, we will realize just how small, fragile, and exposed we truly are. Mere temporary passengers orbiting a star that breathes fire.